In part 2, we will learn more about organizational culture and how it's shaped. Effective leaders understand the internal and external forces that influence the success of their organizations. One such force is organizational culture, the shared values, norms, assumptions, attitudes among the people of an organization. Culture is unique. No two organizations have exactly the same culture. It is embedded within the other elements of the organization, including its mission, vision, leadership system, its HR functions, and so on. Organizational culture is created and communicated from higher levels of the organization. The ultimate source of an organization's culture is usually its founder or founders. When they started the company, they had a vision in their mind of what it should be and what it should become in the future. Their values, their beliefs, their assumptions, their norms also became part of the organization in its early days. Then the founders attracted, hired, and retained other people who more than likely also thought and felt and behaved in similar ways. Once they were hired, those employees were indoctrinated, socialized into the founders' way of thinking and doing. You can see how this would be relatively easy in a small organization of 2, 3, 4 people. And then the founders themselves acted as role models. Their behaviors reinforced the organization's values, which again were based on their own. This probably led employees to further identify with the founder and the organization and to internalize those values, beliefs, and assumptions. You may have heard of organizational climate, which is different. Climate is about the context in which actions occur, a measure of the current situation in which a person works. Climate can change drastically from Monday to Friday. Culture is more stable and can take years to change. Because climate is created at lower levels of the organization, at the group and team level, multiple climates exist within a single organization. For instance, a team's goals or changes in the industry could be considered part of the climate, but not necessarily the culture. Let's look at some of the functions of culture. Because every organization's culture is unique, it allows them to set themselves apart from other companies in the same industry. Doing so, and doing it effectively, can give the company an advantage when it comes to recruiting, selecting, retaining employees. Culture also unites people around a shared identity. They're all working toward the same mission and vision, and they're all on the same page about what it means to work for their company. Shared perceptions and shared identities then increase their commitment to their work, to their colleagues, and to the organization as a whole. In this way, culture can focus people's attention on something bigger than themselves, something outside their own interests. Culture can also help stabilize a social system because it helps everyone know exactly what's expected of them. Clearer expectations reduce uncertainty and stress and increase the consistency of behaviors. Culture can guide and shape people's attitudes and behavior. It gives meaning to what they're doing and helps them make sense of the decisions and changes that are going on around them. many of which they have very little control over. This is especially true when the leadership system is weak. Culture can give people meaning and help them head in the same direction. Culture can foster creativity and innovation by encouraging people to be open with their ideas, open to new experiences, by encouraging them to collaborate with one another, and encouraging them to be flexible, and also making sure the organization is flexible in how it manages people. The good news is a strong, positive culture can contribute to a company's bottom line by helping it achieve its mission and vision. Weak, negative cultures only hinder the company and prevent it from reaching its full potential. Nearly all of the decisions made within an organization can shape its culture. Decisions about who to hire, how to manage, and how to help people adapt to the organization can impact the sustainability of a culture. The recruitment and selection processes identify and select people who have the KSAOs to perform their job and perform it well. These processes can also help ensure that people have the values that are consistent with the organization's values. For example, if you are someone who cares about their impact on the environment, you might want to work for a company that also tries to minimize its own impact on the environment through reducing waste or recycling or some other initiative. The actions of top management also have a major impact on the culture. Top managers establish norms through their words and actions. For instance, managers who speak negatively about other managers, other employees, or the organization encourage their own employees to do the same. Over time, this creates a climate of competition within that group, and that climate can expand and can then trickle down through the levels of organization until the lower level employees also imitate their behaviors. Over time, this climate of competition becomes the culture of competition as everyone in the organization competes with one another. Third, the socialization process can help sustain the organization's culture. It's the process of onboarding people and helping them get oriented to their job and to the organization itself. Let's take a moment to learn more about the socialization process. The first stage is the pre-arrival stage, or the anticipatory socialization stage here in the figure, which explicitly recognizes that everyone arrives with a set of values, attitudes, and expectations about the work and the employer. This stage is also called the recruitment stage in some models. The accuracy of people's perceptions is critical in determining how well they will adjust. One way to leverage the information that people come to the organization with is to make sure that the recruitment and selection process is informative. We want to provide a realistic preview of what the job involves and what it takes to work for the organization. It helps people determine whether or not they are a good fit before they ever submit an application. In the second stage of socialization, new members encounter the organization's culture for the first time. In doing so, they may find out that their initial perceptions of the organization were inaccurate. How many of you have started working for a company only to find out that what you were told before you were hired is not true? If new members' expectations were fairly accurate, in other words, their expectations are being upheld Their initial perceptions are then validated and cemented. If their expectations are not met, they can become unhappy, disgruntled, frustrated, and eventually quit. Other people stay with the organization but don't put as much effort into their work. This is one of the reasons why we encourage new employees to develop friendships with other people in the organization. These people can serve as mentors, coaches, help them learn the ropes of the organization, and in the long run, stay with the organization. The third and final stage of the socialization process is called the metamorphosis stage. This is when new employees work out any problems they may have identified during the previous stage. Maybe their perceptions didn't match reality and they don't know what to do. Maybe they have questions about their role, or they've had a negative experience with a manager or a colleague. One of the factors that plays a major role in the success of socialization is the fit or compatibility between an employee and an employer. Just as two people may be incompatible in a relationship, a worker and a company can also be incompatible. Person, job, PJ, fit is the match between an individual and their job, between their KSAOs and those that are required by the job. Recall that the purpose of a job analysis is to identify what KSAOs are required, and that the purpose of selection is to make sure that employees do in fact have those KSAOs. In some ways, person job fit also allows us to measure how well our HR functions are working. Is the selection system, in fact, choosing people who have what they need to do their job? Person job fit is just one measure of this compatibility. Person organization, PO fit, is the match between an individual and their organization or employer. In general, work outcomes tend to be better when the fit is higher. When the two entities are more compatible, guess what? Job performance is higher, job satisfaction is higher, and eventually this impacts the bottom line. The goal is to ensure a good fit. When we're talking about shaping culture, it's worth mentioning the attraction, selection, attrition model, the ASA model. This particular theory suggests that organizations attract, through their recruitment practices, a certain type of job applicant. They do this through their messaging, through the communication channels they choose to use, and so on. They provide information about the job. People read that information. People who are interested in that information, in that job, and who have the KSAOs tend to apply. From that group that is already more similar to the organization than the average person because of their match with the job description, they then select employees from that group. Those who are hired are then trained to do their job and socialized to understand the organization and what is expected for success. This model predicts that attrition will occur naturally, either through direct or indirect means. Attrition refers to the leaving of people. Once people understand their job and the organization, some of them realize that the fit is not good and they leave, they quit. We call this attrition in this model. By being open and honest about what an organization expects from people through the socialization process, it keeps people who are compatible and encourages those who are not compatible to leave. If by being honest about what the organization wants, people do not apply, isn't that a good thing? We're avoiding hiring someone that would have eventually quit.